How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Feels so good to be back. I'm really excited to bring you a lot of new and delicious foods. That is, however, if I can actually get the stovetop to work. There we go. Okay, so today we are going to take a stab at something I'm sure you've seen before, the all-competitive spicy chicken sandwich. Now, this sandwich gets a whole lot of hype, but I think our version is going to bring something fresh to it. To start, we're of course going to make our own brioche buns, and that starts by making something called a tangzhong. A tangzhong is this Japanese technique that helps make a fluffier and softer bun. It's also going to rise a lot better. And definitely leave a comment if I butchered that pronunciation. Probably did. That's alright. But to do this, we're going to start by adding a 1/4 cup of whole milk to a pot on medium heat. Next, about 2 tablespoons of water and 2 tablespoons of flour. Then we're going to whisk that up almost like we're making a thick roux. And once it's thick enough, we're going to transfer that to a cup and put it aside for later. Now in a small bowl, we're going to combine 200 grams of warm whole milk, about a tablespoon of active dry yeast, and 30 grams of sugar. Stir that up, cover it, and after about 10 minutes, it's going to look something like this. Okay, now we can start to put it all together. We're going to start with 450 grams of bread flour. All-purpose flour will also work with this, followed by 10 grams of salt. Then while mixing on low, you're going to add your frothy yeast milk, I know that sounds great, to that mix. After that, add your tangzhong, and mix until combined. Next up, add 1 whole egg and 1 egg yolk. You're going to mix that until combined. Also, word of wisdom here, if your dog seems like he's scared of the mixer, he's not. He's just going for the butter. And speaking of butter, it's time to throw it in. About 3 tablespoons worth. Dog slobber is optional, but we're going to mix that up until there's no lumps of butter, and it's time to scrape it out onto our work surface. If your dough is a little bit sticky, try not to add too much flour at this point. You can do this slap and fold technique I'm doing right here. Pretty much you just grab underneath the dough like you're just scooping it up the counter. Don't be shy about it, and just slap it down on the counter. Exactly what it sounds like. Now all you need to do is knead this until you can form it into a nice smooth ball and place it into a greased bowl where it's going to sit in a warm place for about 2 hours. If your house typically runs cool, what works really well is just turning the oven light on in your oven. Heats it up just a little bit, it's a great place for it to rest. While that rests, we're going to get the chicken ready. Now, if you're like me and you lost that meat pounder who knows how long ago, a cast iron pan works just fine for this. Just put some plastic wrap on top and really just start taking out your frustrations on that chicken. You're going to go ahead and cut that in half. For this, I did it about 1 inch thick. Honestly, I would go a little bit thinner next time, so maybe 1/2 inch to 1 inch. And then now we're going to start making the marinade. For the marinade, we're going to need about 1 cup of buttermilk, followed by a splash of pickle juice, a teaspoon of chipotle chili powder, a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, a teaspoon of garlic powder, a few dashes of the hot sauce of your choice. For this, I used some Tabasco. You want about a teaspoon of paprika, and then of course salt. For this, we're going to use a couple tablespoons of salt. We're going to stir that up, and you're going to place your chicken in, which is going to remain there at least for an hour, ideally overnight though. It's going to tenderize it, it's going to add a lot of flavor. Now for the hot honey, I kept this pretty simple. Really wasn't in the mood to pickle my own jalapenos this time, but I actually just used these hot and sweet jalapenos that I got from Trader Joe's. They're awesome if you haven't picked them up yet, great pretty much on anything. And I infused that with a little bit of warm honey and an ancho chili pepper. You really just want to pick those out once you're done with it. Let this sit and infuse in the fridge, and it's going to be good to go. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and make the flour dredge. So for this, we're actually going to use about 1/2 AP flour, all-purpose flour, and 1/2 potato starch. What the potato starch does is it helps add a little bit more of that light crispiness. Along with that, we're going to add a couple teaspoons of each cayenne, paprika, garlic powder, chipotle powder, salt, and pepper. So a lot of the same spices that went in that marinade. We're also going to be drizzling some of our marinade into that dredge for this. It's going to bunch up and it's going to make those really good crunchy bits that you get all the time on a good chicken sandwich. And speaking of a good chicken sandwich, I doubt you have ever had one without that really solid underlying sauce in it. So for this, we're going to be making one with a 1/4 cup mayo, 2 cloves of minced garlic, 1 teaspoon of a hot sauce of your choice. I use sriracha in this, a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, a tablespoon of lemon juice, and then salt and pepper to taste. Oh, and a teaspoon of Dijon mustard because I forgot about that. But that's really important, so don't forget. Okay, now we're going to start dredging our chicken in that half flour, half potato starch mixture that we made earlier. Make sure that you get into every nook and cranny here, you don't want to miss any. And as soon as you're done with that, we're going to move on to the final pieces and making those good brioche buns. Once the dough is proofed for about 2 hours, you're going to want to punch the air out of it and start dividing it into our individual rolls. This is going to make about 8 rolls, so you just want to split it in half and then do it again, and then do it again, and that'll give you 8 rolls. If you do want to get really precise with it, and by all means you definitely can, you can use a scale like I was doing there. It's not super important, just try to make sure that they're all pretty equal in size. Now you want to put the dough on the counter, and using the friction of the counter, you want to make sure you roll that into a nice smooth ball here. You can do that just by kind of running your hand over the top of it, or honestly just pinching it between your fingers. But we're going to do that to each and every roll, and then put them on a lightly greased pan where they're going to proof a little bit more. Make sure you put some type of lid on it just to make sure not too much air gets into it, but it's only going to stay here for about 30 minutes. Once that's done, we're going to start applying our egg wash. So this is just 1 egg beat in about a tablespoon of water, and this is really going to give it that beautiful golden brown crust. Now you are going to notice me applying this by hand. I by no means recommend this as a good method. I did just misplace my brush, so things are going really well in the kitchen tonight. Now, all that aside, we did adapt and overcome, and we are able to get this into a 375 degree oven, and then we're going to let them bake for about 15 to 18 minutes, or more importantly, until we see that beautiful golden brown crust, just like this. Now we'll put the finishing touches on by spooning some nice melted butter on top. And I guarantee you, if there's one thing out of this recipe you want to do, it is make these buns. They are life-changing, and they're way better than anything you will ever be able to find at the store. Now all we need to do is fry the chicken. So we're going to use canola oil in a heavy based Dutch oven. Now you want to keep that oil at about 350 degrees, add the chicken, and we're going to fry these for about 10 to 12 minutes. If you pound it a little bit thinner, then it might be a little bit less time, maybe like 8 to 10 minutes. But once that's done and those are nice golden brown and crispy, make sure as soon as they come out of the fryer, you hit them with a little bit of salt. And now the moment you've all been waiting for, we can finally start to put this together. So of course you're going to want to toast those beautiful buns that we just made, get them really nice and crispy, golden brown, and then we're going to generously lather that with some of our sauce. And I do mean generous, do not go light on the stuff, it's going to be really good. Next, you're going to bestow that with your beautifully golden brown fried chicken. Look at that. I mean, it just looks crispy. Now, on top of that, you really want to find some really thick cut pickles. I do recommend making your own, and once again, if you want to see how to do that, please leave a comment down below. And then of course we're going to want to slather this with some of that sweet, spicy jalapeno honey that we made earlier. And you're also going to want to be pretty generous with this stuff too, because you're really not going to be able to get enough of that sweet, salty flavor. And now really all there is left to do is put on that top bun, feast your eyes at what you just did, and enjoy it. And let me tell you, enjoy I did. Is this the best recipe you're ever going to find on YouTube for a chicken sandwich? Probably not, but I bet it's going to give everything else a run for its money, and it's definitely something different. Look at how juicy that chicken got, how crispy that outer skin is, and really just the combination of the honey, the jalapenos, the chicken, of course those brioche buns, the mayo sauce we made, it really just all comes together for that perfect bite and that perfect chicken sandwich. Please, if you like what you saw here, leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel, there's going to be so much more. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, how much I love the support I've gotten so far, and I can't wait to see you next time. See ya.